Veuillez accueillir, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Member of Parliament for right here in Halifax, Andy Fillmore.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all here. My name is Andy Fillmore. I'm the MP here in Halifax. Welcome to my hometown. Welcome to the capital of Canada's Ocean Playground, the capital of Canada's Ocean Workshop. Welcome to Mi'kma'ki. Bienvenue à Halifax. Welcome to Halifax. So here we are at the 2018 National Liberal Policy Convention, and like you, I can't help but think about how far we've come, and Anna's just reminded us a little bit about that. I want to say, as a new MP, I have to thank a group of veteran Liberal MPs that have supported me and all of my new colleagues from 2015 through today with incredible support. And so maybe we'll just have a round of applause for those veterans who showed us the way. Tonight, I want to tell you about just one of those people, my friend, the MP for Kings Hants, Scott Brison. I would like you to imagine a bitter cold, minus 15 degrees Celsius day in January 2015. It was only my second day of knocking doors as the new Liberal candidate for Halifax. It was so cold that I was certain that no one was going to open the door to have a conversation, to talk to me, to hear about new policy ideas, let alone to talk about an election that was nearly a year away. But I wasn't going to get out of it that easy. Scott had driven 90 minutes from Cheverry to join me on the doorsteps that day. Now, prior to that, I'd known Scott by reputation, and I'd met him on a few occasions, including as a speaker at my nomination. Thanks again for that, Scott. But this was the first day that I actually got to know the kind of stuff that Scott Brison is made of. So there I was, climbing one of the first doors of the day, and I rang the bell, and immediately, pandemonium. Dogs barking, babies crying, loud thumps coming from behind the door, and through all that noise, I heard the beleaguered voice of a mom, and she said, "What?" And I'll never forget the look on her face when she opened the door just a crack, and she looked completely exhausted, holding back the dogs, holding a baby, kids all around her, and I decided right then, this is going to be a quick interaction. I said my name, she impatiently took my literature, I began to back away, but in swooped Scott Brison from behind. He did this thing where he jimmied his foot in the door, edging it up open ever just so slightly, and said, "My name is Scott Brison, and have you heard an idea called the Canada Child Benefit?" And from there, Scott went on to tell her about the Liberal proposals for middle-class families, our vision for a strong middle class, and bit by bit, dogs still barking, children still crying. The woman opened the door more and more, and I noticed her leaning in to listen to what Scott had to say. And soon enough, Scott asked her if she would consider voting Liberal, and she said she'd consider it. Then he said, "Would you consider also taking a sign for your yard?" And I'm getting very uncomfortable now. We've gone way too far, I feel. And she paused and sighed and said, sure, I'll take a sign for the yard. And then at that point, I thought it was really time to go. And Scott, I felt you should leave the poor woman alone, but he went in for one more ask and he said, "Now look, would you ever consider volunteering for the Liberal Party?" I must have gone ashen, but she said yes. A vote, a sign, and a volunteer in a moment where I was ready to walk away empty-handed. Isn't that remarkable? Scott is truly an MP with an uncanny talent to connect with Canadians on issues that matter to them. He's a leader in our party that does not back away from uncertain encounters like that one, but instead pushes forward our shared Liberal vision for a better Canada. He's a tireless MP, a generous mentor to me and all of our colleagues in the House of Commons. He's the only man that I ever jumped out of a gift-wrapped cardboard box for on his birthday. Please help me welcome that's another story. Please welcome my friend, the MP for King Hants, and the President of the Treasury Board, Scott Brison.
Thank you, Andy. I went back the next day and signed her up for the Victory Club, too. I wouldn't have got Max if I wasn't persistent. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Halifax, welcome to Nova Scotia, and welcome to the 2018 Liberal Party of Canada Biennial Convention. And I want to thank Anna for her tremendous leadership of our party, of our movement, and I want to tell you, Suzanne, how proud we are of you and all of our Nova Scotians. You're going to make all Canadians, Liberals, proud coast to coast to coast. And later on tonight, I hope we see a whole bunch of you out at Nova Scotia House on Argyle Street for some great Nova Scotian hospitality. Je suis très fier de voir ma famille libérale.
I'm really proud to see my Liberal family joined together here in my native province. And on behalf of all Canadians of Atlantic Canada, I wish you a warm welcome.
Atlantic Canada. And that's why our government has teamed up with the 4 Atlantic premiers to build the Atlantic Growth Strategy. That's why we've teamed up with our Atlantic universities and our entrepreneurs to build the Ocean Supercluster. Liberals empower Atlantic Canadians to build a brighter future for our families. And with hope and hard work, 18 months from now in October of 2019, we will earn the trust again of Atlantic Canadians who will help re-elect 32 dynamic, hard-working Liberal MPs to defend our region. Here we are gathered, Liberals from coast to coast to coast, all here with one mission, to build a better Canada. And all of us took a different path to get here. We all have our own Canadian story. Take the story of Joe Ramia, who left Lebanon to come to Halifax in 1966 at the age of 9, speaking not a word of English and without a penny. It's not too much of a stretch to say that without Joe, none of us would be here today. That's because Joe Ramia built this magnificent Nova Centre. And if anyone wants evidence of the remarkable contribution that immigration makes to Canada, all you have to do is look at the Halifax skyline. There's no better place for Canada's party of immigration, the Liberal Party, to gather for its national convention than just a few blocks from Pier 21, which welcomed more than 1 million new Canadians between 1928 and 1971. Later this weekend, you'll hear Tarek Hadhad. You will hear his story and how the Hadhad family fled Syria and settled in Antigonish, Nova Scotia in early 2016, and how their business Peace by Chocolate is growing by leaps and bounds right here in Nova Scotia, employing 40 people along the way. Today, we often hear how Syrian refugees are thankful to Canada. In 20 years, my friends, all Canadians will be thanking these Syrian refugees for helping us build a better, stronger, and more diverse Canada. Their story is Canada's story. Now, I'd like to take just a few minutes tonight to share a little bit of my story and what brought me here, and what the Liberal Party means to me. I'm a lifelong Liberal. Seriously, folks, I was born a Liberal. I only came out 15 years ago. My parents took it pretty well. Fact is, I was a Centennial Project, born in 1967. And I want to tell you how amazed I am at the changes Canada has seen over the last 50 years in the span of my lifetime. I was still in diapers in 1969 when Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau decriminalized homosexuality. Imagine, up until then, I spent the first 2 years of my life destined for criminality. Later, In 1982, I was 15 when Pierre Trudeau brought in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Like most teenagers, I barely took notice at the time. But Trudeau's leadership with the Charter proved to be a game changer for Canada and a life changer for me. And I remember in the 1990s, as a member of Parliament, I was in the House of Commons for the debates on same-sex pension benefits for public servants. And I was proud as a Canadian when those rights were granted by the Chrétien government in 2000. That would not have happened without the Charter. And in June 2005, I had the honor of being part of Paul Martin's government when we passed the Equal Marriage Act in the House of Commons. And 5 weeks later, Maxim and I became engaged. And you may find this hard to believe, but he asked me. 2 years later, in August of 2007, we were married at our home in Cheverry. And mind you, over the last 11 years, I've tested Max's enthusiasm for same-sex marriage a few times. But nothing could overshadow our absolute joy with the birth of our daughters, Rose and Claire, on February 22nd, 2014. But it was last summer when I was reminded how far Canada has progressed over the last 30 years. You see, 30 years ago, in 1988, I watched the first Halifax Gay Pride Parade. About 70 people walked in that parade. Some of them walked with paper bags covering their heads, with holes cut out so they could see. They wanted to make a statement that there was indeed a gay community in Halifax, but they did not feel they could be open and honest about who they were. They could have lost their jobs. Back then, remember that men and women in uniform, willing to risk their lives to serve their country, could still be kicked out of the Canadian Armed Forces just for being gay. Now contrast that with last summer, the 30th annual Halifax Pride Parade. J'ai jamais été aussi.
Well, I've never been so proud of my country that particular day in July, when I was walking with my husband, our two young daughters, and the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, Sophie, and their family, amongst thousands of radiantly proud Canadians.
Of my country than on that July day when I walked with my husband and our daughters alongside our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, Sophie, and their family, along with thousands of proud Canadians. Proud of a country where love is love, and regardless of who you love, we've got a Prime Minister who's got your back. In fact, it was a Liberal Prime Minister, Paul Martin, who in 2004 appointed Canada's first openly gay cabinet minister. That was me. In 2015, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau appointed Canada's second openly gay cabinet minister. That was me too. But things have improved. We've got Seamus O'Regan now. And what made me so happy when Seamus O'Regan joined our cabinet was that there was hardly a mention, I don't believe there was a mention in the media of Seamus's sexual orientation, which, my friend, shows the true progress that Canada has made. We are part of the most diverse cabinet in Canadian history, a historic gender-based cabinet built by Prime Minister Trudeau that reflects Canada's greatest strength, its diversity. I feel lucky to be Canadian, to be part of a lucky generation in a lucky country, a country where I can marry the person I love and we can raise our family, and at the same time be given the honor and privilege of serving the people of King's Hants and the people of Canada. But let's be very clear, while the President of the Treasury Board is a pretty good role, being daddy to Claire and Rose is the best role I'll ever have. The lesson for all of this, and it's an important lesson, is that our good fortune didn't just happen by accident. This doesn't just happen anywhere. It happened here in Canada because of leadership, Liberal leadership, that focused on doing what was right for Canadians. As parents, we all think of our kids' future and how we would do anything to make sure they have a chance to build a happy, fulfilling life here in Canada. But as Liberals, we don't just care about our kids' futures. We think about all kids' futures. That's what Pierre Trudeau did in 1982 with the Charter of Rights. He gave people like me a chance to have a better future. That's what many of you did as Liberal delegates in Ottawa and Montreal conventions when you helped build the plan and the team, the building blocks for our success in 2015. And in 2015, Liberals had all Canadian kids in mind when we offered a plan for jobs and growth for the middle class. And today that plan is working, creating 600,000 new jobs for Canadians to build a brighter future for Canadian families. And the Canada Child Benefit has lifted 300,000 Canadian kids out of poverty, giving them a chance to build a better future. To historic investments in Indigenous communities and in education for our Indigenous children so that they can have a chance to build a better future. And welcoming 40,000 Syrian refugees to Canada so that they can have a chance to build a better future. Mark my words, friends, in 20 years, these bold Liberal decisions will be part of the history of Canadian nation building, right up there with Medicare and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. All big ideas, courageous decisions, all to give every Canadian a chance to build a better future. Mes amis, on est ici pour...
My friends, we're here for our Liberal convention, but it is not simply a convention for Liberals. It is a convention for all Canadians who are seeking a better future.
But it can't be just a convention about Liberals. It's about Canada. It's when Liberals focus on Canadians' futures that we make history. That's what we did in 2015. That's what we've got to do this weekend, and that's what we've got to do in 2019 and beyond. So let's get busy. Canadians are counting on us. Let's do what Liberals do best, work hard and build a better Canada and a brighter future for all Canadians. When we have the courage to make the big, bold decisions that offer all Canadians a chance for a brighter future, Canadians get it, and they will be partners in progress with us to build a better Canada. Merci beaucoup.